Welcome again to Sid Caudle Christian People's Alliance, one of the saner members of the political establishment, I must say, because we're going to discuss the other type shortly. But I'll tell you what, something's been handed to me, Sid, about TikTok, out of China originally, I understand. But goodness me, it's made a difference to the economy in the UK. £10 billion boost, and it's got 153,000 jobs in the UK.
Yeah,
How does it do it?
well, it's interesting. I mean, I don't go on TikTok, but from what I understand, if you do go on, they're very good at connecting you with anybody that might have similar interests to you. So, all of a sudden, it's like, oh, what about this person? What about that person? And all these suggestions come up. So they're very active in trying to link you up with other people. I think that's why they're so successful and why young people like it so much. If we had our way, we'd have a turnover tax and we'd be taxing the turnover of TikTok in the UK, which would basically mean we'd be getting 5% of all the 10 billion turnover, which actually makes a lot of sense. So they wouldn't just be getting tax out of employing people, we'd also getting tax out of their profits because or out of their turnover because the profits that they make, they're not going to be taxed in the UK because it's a Chinese company and they'll pay all their tax in China.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to confess that we avoided them because of the Chinese connection for quite a while. But since we started using them, even though they're really for the 2 or 3 minute video game type people, we put on the show, for instance, and it's got good numbers, better, dare I say, than YouTube. There we are. So,
It's interesting. Maybe we should start using it in the Christian People's Alliance. I mean, I'm very keen on social media. We do a lot on X, on Facebook, and such like. So maybe we should start using TikTok.
yeah, there you go. So there's your good news for the day. We'll go downhill now. Um, what's this about the Cabinet Office guidelines? And as a civil servant, you will be punished if you start gendering in the wrong gender. Forget biological sex, doesn't exist. I thought the Supreme Court would put an end to this nonsense, but it hasn't, has it?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it, that the civil service, are still following the new age religion, basically, is what I call it, the transgenderism idea, even though it's the Supreme Court has very clearly ruled that there are only two genders. Um, but of course, we've had the case of Jennifer Melley, which I find shocking, because in that case, the person concerned was a paedophile prisoner in hospital and he was in a male ward, even though he identified as a female. And
Yeah.
correctly, of course, because the courts have clearly said that anybody who is born male must go into a male hospital ward. But Jennifer then refers to him on the phone to a doctor, Jennifer being a senior nurse, and saying that he wants to discharge himself. And the patient overheard what Jennifer said, was absolutely furious and said, "How dare you call me a man? I'm a woman," using very colourful language, 3 times calling her a nigger. And she said she was actually in fear of being assaulted, although he didn't actually hit her. But after the incident, which she calmed down and everything was sorted out, the NHS decided to suspend her. And the suspension lasted a long time. She had disciplinary interviews. It went to the Nursing and Midwifery Council, who had 2 investigations. And, hold on a minute, what's going on? What is going on? She's actually done the right thing. This person was correctly on a male ward and referred to correctly as a male. This is the NHS. So if the NHS can do that, obviously the civil service is going to be doing it. And it's throughout government. And it's very, very bad, frankly, very bad.
Creates more jobs as well,
Mm.
jobs that shouldn't be there, but they are. Iran has been caught out sending basically spies across the English Channel with the rest of the criminals, not all of them criminals. good proportion, I suspect, are. Well, in fact, most of them are criminals, let's be honest. They're breaking their way into the country, and that is a criminal act. So there we are, we're putting them up and putting it up with them in equal measure, and they're spying on us. I mean, the Americans again are just looking at Britain and saying, what is going on over there?
Well, no, absolutely. You see, Trump said it was very important to close the border. That's what he said. We've got to close the border. And one of the reasons he said is we don't know who these people are that are coming over from Mexico. And he claimed that some countries were even emptying their prisons. But he says if we don't know who they are that are coming in, it's unsafe. Now, you see, it's in the UK. It's actually much easier, by the way, to stop people coming over the sea than it is to close a land border. But Trump has successfully closed the land border with Mexico, even though it's a 2,000-mile border, which shows it can be done. And these boats could be stopped, but they don't have the will to stop them. Australia, by the way, has shown the example. They've stopped boats coming into Australia simply by tugging them back to where they came from. Literally just sending a boat out, putting a tow rope onto it and tugging it back. And when they'd done that a few times, the boat stopped coming to Australia. So it can be done. It's been proved it can be done, but they don't want to. Instead of actually stopping it, they're pretending to stop it. Andy Burnham recently made an announcement. Oh yeah, we've been extremely successful in stopping the boats. No, you haven't. They just haven't come over because of bad weather for a period of time. But now we've got good weather again and calm seas. They're coming over in their droves. You've stopped nothing and you put nothing in place to effectively stop it, then it's now urgent, absolutely urgent.
He's given us dolly mixtures, little bits of things to make him look good, but he's not addressing this boat problem at all. None of the left are. He's just as much in the hands of the lefties in the Labour Party, the new MPs, if you wish, as his predecessor. Nothing's going to change, Sid.
No, absolutely. Because there's a large number of people on the left that have this romantic notion that these people coming over in small boats are fleeing from something. And we have to hold out our hands and welcome these poor people that are fleeing the desperate situation that they've been in. And then I think Kibatu, as I've said before, proved that false because he came over in a small boat. He raped a 12-year-old girl, was sentenced to 2 years, I believe, in prison, and said when interviewed, "I had no idea that it was against the law to have sexual intercourse with a 12-year-old girl." He said, "I want to go back to Ethiopia." So it's like, okay, well, you're not fleeing anything, then, are you? If you want to go back to Ethiopia, I mean, that is absolute proof that he wasn't fleeing anything. And it's the same for all these people. They're not fleeing anything. So why are they coming over? And, I've become convinced, which the evidence seems to support it, that these people are actually on a Islamic Hajj in order to make the West more Islamic. And this was like the Hajj that Muhammad went on. It's like, and this is also what Mamdani said, that these people are just on a journey. They're on an Islamic journey. Yeah, okay, fine. So, they want to make Britain more Islamic. Well, sorry, we don't want you to come here to make Britain more Islamic. Go and make your own country more Islamic if you want to, but we don't want you to come over here and make our country Islamic.
I think you've hit on the point there, Sid, because people are just letting it happen. Either they don't care or they don't realize what's happening. They do in the States, I'll tell you, and they do in some other European countries. They are aware of what's going on. I mean, they're not exactly hiding it. They're saying we're on the caliphate mode at the moment, and we're going to take you over. They say that. They preach it in their mosques. Yes. You can't criticize them for at least being honest in that respect.
Yes, exactly. But you see, it's the left. are fools, frankly, because, they cling to this notion that these poor people are fleeing something and we have to welcome them. And then the Greens are even saying that they're going to attack the police who dare to arrest immigrants. It's like, what? You're attacking the police? Oh, yeah. Well, but wait a minute. Immigrants are only being arrested when they commit crimes. Oh, no, no. Poor immigrants should never be arrested. These poor people are fleeing from torture that they faced elsewhere, and they have to be welcomed in the UK, and they should never be arrested for anything. Really? Okay, so it doesn't matter if they murder or kill or assault or rape or anything. It doesn't matter because they're poor immigrants. I mean, it's just this nonsense idea that these people on the left have got, frankly. They need to wake up and face reality.
I ship, personally, half of Whitehall, not to Manchester, but to Bournemouth. That used to be a really good place to visit. Beautiful beach, beautiful sea, beautiful entertainment, and good people. We have filmed there for donkey's years. Wow. Forget it now. You can't get on the beach, or you don't want to go, because they're either facing east, a good number of the Islamic guys, or it's so full of barbecues, dangerous barbecues in the wrong places. The indigenous population no longer wants to go there. Their main hotels have been taken over. It's revolutionized Bournemouth. It's a dreadful place compared to what it was.
Well, it's interesting. Well, I was in Brighton yesterday, and I'm glad to say that that's not true of Brighton. Brighton is still, well, it's not as an attractive beach as Bournemouth. Bournemouth is a beautiful sandy beach. Brighton is very much a pebbly beach, and except when the tide's right out, and then you have a little bits of sand. But it's mostly a pebbly beach. But is also almost entirely white people on the beach. So we certainly haven't got that problem in Brighton, which, as I say, was what I was yesterday.
There you go. A bright point.
Maybe we should have it in Brighton because Brighton elect Green MPs. So since they elect Green MPs, maybe they should send all the immigrants there.
Yes, it's been talked about. That's interesting. Back to Dolly Mixtures and Andy Burnham. His idea, apparently, to encourage people to get on the job ladder, and especially the job ladder that has hard hats, electricians, plumbers, etc., etc. He's going to bring in a scheme. You're going to get £4,000 to £4,500 as a parent of these children that are going to get educated, forget the universities. £4,500, and who's he giving it to? Number one, single parent families. Really? Number two, those youngsters that are disadvantaged, mainly because they don't want to get up off the sofa and they've got ADHD and other diseases of a similar nature. Now, it gets worse. Nothing will be done till a report comes out in 2027. Oh, I can't do anything before the full report, before we know the full figures. Nothing has changed, Sid. It's all window dressing.
Yes, there is an issue here because what happens is that we're talking about a lot of people that leave school at 16, because of course, which is about, I believe, is still a large percentage of school kids leave school at 16. So not all stay on to the sixth form at 18, let alone go to university afterwards. And what happens if you've got, for instance, a single parent, is that their son starts an apprenticeship and their benefits immediately go down, and they can go down quite substantially, as much as £100 a month. And it's like, okay, is that fair? There is a problem here because what happens is that if a young person gets an apprenticeship, and it's often as young as 16, then if you've got a single mother, for instance, she's going to lose £100 a week in benefits. And £100 a week is a significant amount of money. And what then happens is that the young person says, oh, I can't start an apprenticeship because if I start an apprenticeship, my mum's going to lose £100 a week. So I'm better off just staying at home, and we're all on benefits and we earn more money that way. So there is an issue. And if Andy Burnham does address that issue and basically say, I'm going to guarantee that if a young person starts work and goes on an apprenticeship, then their parents will not lose benefits as a result of them starting an apprenticeship. That's what needs to be said, not this, oh, I'm going to grant them 4,500. I mean, that's nonsense. What we've got to do is to get rid of that anomaly, because part of our manifesto is that everyone has to be better off working than on benefits. And we put into our manifesto 25%. So if you're working, you've got to be at least 25% better off than on benefits. And if necessary, the state will make up the difference. We've got to have an incentive for people to work right across the board. And it especially has to apply to young people, 16, 18-year-olds. I mean, there's no way that we can have a system where they're better off on benefits when they're 16. So there's a disincentive to work. That just cannot happen.
Nigel Farage has gone quiet. Not surprisingly. He's always, whether he's been in Brussels or entertaining himself equally so in Westminster, he's said consistently the establishment are out to get him. And I believe that is the case, and it's been proven once again. The aforementioned Andy Burnham wants to get the parties together to save broken Britain. Let's get consensual. Come on, get the Tories on board, get the Lib Dems, etc., etc. And up until this last week, Reform, who have been in the lead in the polls, no mention. This is sinister, Sid. I believe Nigel Farage is absolutely right. The establishment, therefore, stretches as far as the two main parties plus. They're part of it.
Well, I think you're right, but I don't think that's the best example, because he's not included the Greens or the SNP or your party, who are also in Parliament with similar numbers to Reform. So he's only included the three largest parties in Parliament: Labour, Conservative, Lib Dem, and there's a massive difference. I mean, Conservatives have 120 MPs, Lib Dems have 72, and Reform have 8. So there is a big difference. And you can say he's got a reason for just saying, I just want to talk to the main parties in Parliament at the moment. But where I think Nigel Farage has come seriously under attack is from the Electoral Commission, because he's been referred to the police by the Electoral Commission. So has Richard Tice. So has Robert Jenrick. They've all been referred to the police for what appeared to be, well, how can I put it? Reasons that would not normally be picked up. I mean, in Richard Tice's case, for instance, I mean, he's got a company that gave 500,000 to the Reform Party prior to the last election, and that's perfectly acceptable, perfectly right. So what the Electoral Commission then investigated is who gave the money to his company. And they're basically saying one of the people that gave money to his company was Fiona Cotterill, who was the mother of George Cotterill, who is based in Montenegro and a very wealthy businessman. So they're now saying, well, wait a minute, is this Fiona Cotterill's money, or was it George Cotterill's money who he gave to his mother so that his mother could give it to Reform UK? It wasn't really her money. That's what they're claiming. And if it wasn't her money, if it was somebody else's money, that it was just passed through as a convenience, then he's not allowed to give that money to Reform UK because he's a foreign citizen, and foreign citizens aren't allowed to influence the elections. Now, that's what's being alleged. And Richard Tice says, oh, I've done nothing wrong. What's going on? But you see, what I find strange, you see, is the fact that we've had this clear fraud in the SNP, £400,000 of fraud in the SNP that was going down the pan. The Electoral Commission never picked it up. There was not a single reference to the police over any of these items of fraud. What actually happened was a member of the public referred it to the police, which caused the police to investigate, not the Electoral Commission. And we've actually contacted the Electoral Commission as to say we want to see a copy of your reports into the SNP. And the Electoral Commission have said, no, we're not willing to send them to you. It's not in the interests, in our interests or the interests of the country or whatever, to send you these reports. So they're refusing to send them. So I've now appealed against that decision, and I'm saying I'm going to go to the Information Commissioner if they won't give me the reports. So the Electoral Commission are hiding the reports
Mm.
into the SNP, knowing full well they've done wrong. I actually put into the complaint, you are targeting Nigel Farage and Richard Tice and Robert Jenrick, clearly referring them to the police, but you never refer to the SNP to the police. So you're very clearly biased. And to me, this is very clearly an attack on reform.
Absolutely. We carry on downhill finally. Fidden goes to the FIFA and Mr. Infantino, who is not satisfied with the billions he and FIFA have made. 15 of them, actually, 15 billion.
Mm.
And I know I keep going on about this, but I will until it changes. Will it ever change? There's too much money, too much bad money in football. And I cite what he wants to do. He wants to be king of the football world. He is, but not quite. He wants everything. He wants Europe as well. And there he is saying, I want a World Cup every 2 years, never mind four. I want 64 teams in the World Cup. Really? We have problems with 32, but he wants that. Too much money, Sid, and it will go to him. He will maintain his power. He'll get a good deal of that. And look what we had. Some good matches, many were not. The final was a disaster for many reasons. Too much money.
I agree. There is phenomenal amounts of money into football. I will be totally opposed to having every 2 years because you basically then have to do away with the European Championships. And if you did away with the European Championships, I mean, you couldn't possibly have World Cup every 2 years, European Championships every 2 years, so that players would literally every year they'd have to play up to the middle of July before the season is over. I mean, it's just too great a strain on the players, frankly. But yeah, I mean, it's obvious that the World Cup does attract enormous amount of money and enormous amount of worldwide interest. I don't personally have a problem with extending it to 64 teams if that's what's decided. I'd be totally opposed, as I say, to extending it to every 2 years. I don't really have a problem in bringing in private enterprise, frankly, because probably private enterprise could make a lot more money out of the FIFA World Cup than FIFA are making out of it, in the sense that they could probably sell a lot more advertising. I mean, if you had a private company in there really getting to work on selling the advertising at the World Cup, I'm sure you could have much more advertising and much greater revenue, because it is going worldwide and is such an attractive event for people to watch. So I don't have any problem with involving private enterprise, provided it's done in the right way.
Well, if you could afford to pay $1 million for a sofa pitch side, as was happening in the England Argentina match, that's another nail in the coffin. The other nail in the coffin, of course, maybe you don't agree with this, but Rodgers is a super player, but he's not worth £117 million, Sid.
He's quite young, 23, and players are sold not only for their current ability, they're also sold for their potential. And obviously, if you buy a player at 23 that's already playing international football at a high level, the expectation will be that maybe in 4 years' time, he's going to be 27. If still playing at this level, or possibly even playing at a higher level, they could maybe sell him on with a significant profit. That would be the idea, because obviously, if you do what Chelsea have done, actually, interestingly enough, bought a couple of players at 35. You know full well that those players you're not going to be able to sell on. So any money you spend on those players is just lost effectively. So it does, even though those players, might be better players now, in 4 years' time, they're certainly not going to be. So it is the potential that they're buying into. Interestingly enough, I saw that the most expensive player in the world at the moment is Haaland, and Haaland is valued at 220 million, just one player. And Mbappe, interestingly enough, was valued at 200 million, less, because he's that little bit older at 27, where Haaland is only 21, I believe. So obviously, if he can carry on at this rate, I mean, he's worth an enormous amount of money.
Well, he can be shackled, as happened in the World Cup. And is any player worth that much? You tell me, but he seems to be at the moment the television rights are, of course, responsible for this lot. But there we have it. Let's hope they improve the performance of teams in open play, not rely on what happens at the moment of defence playing out the back. In fact, on some of the matches, I've got to say, in the World Cup, Sid, I look forward to the water break that has been forced on us by the Americans. It was more interesting than the play.
Well, I'm afraid there were many games where I only watched part of the match and went and then came back just for the end, and I didn't watch it right through. But it's I think, frankly, when the World Cup was on, I thought there was too much football. I mean, you can't be doing with a big live match at 2 o'clock, another big live match at 5 o'clock, and another big live match at 8 o'clock. I mean, to me, that's just much too much football.
There you go. That's a surprise. But you have time to repent before our next soiree, Sid, and reconsider your statement. We'll see you shortly.